In the dazzling world of British stardom from the 1960s to the 90s, taking another woman's husband seemed like a glamorous game. But karma has a wicked sense of justice. Today we uncover the tragic destinies of 10 famous women who built their happiness on broken homes, only to face the ultimate betrayal when their partners left them for much younger rivals. The boomerang of fate hit them hard. Which story will shock you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments and hit subscribe to never miss our dramatic tales.
Vivian Leigh.
The sparkling lights of the theatrical stage often mask the profound shadows cast by forbidden passions. A legendary beauty with piercing green eyes, she captivated global audiences and one particular married man, the most revered classical actor of his generation. When she set her sights on the illustrious Laurence Olivier, the harsh reality that both were already deeply bound by marital vows meant absolutely nothing to her fiercely determined heart. Their secret romance blossomed intensely amidst the chaotic production of a historical film, ultimately forcing a devastating and highly publicized collapse of their respective families. It was a massive scandal that thoroughly rocked the refined circles of British society in the late 1930s. Triumphantly securing her desired prize, she finally walked down the aisle with him in 1940, fully believing their passionate and hard-won union was permanently destined for eternity.
For over 2 glorious decades, they reigned supreme as the undisputed golden couple of the international theatrical stage and the glamorous silver screen. They appeared entirely invincible to the outside world, expertly masking the growing and dangerous turbulence behind the heavy velvet curtains of their private lives. However, the heavy toll of her deeply hidden emotional struggles and rapidly deteriorating physical health slowly began to fracture the fragile foundation of their grand romantic tale. The unforgiving wheel of fate began its slow and inevitable turn as the glorious facade of their marriage started to severely crumble under immense pressure. The celebrated actor, once utterly spellbound by her radiant and tempestuous allure, found himself increasingly exhausted by the constant and overwhelming emotional turbulence of their daily existence. Desperately seeking a peaceful refuge from the endless storm at home, his wandering gaze naturally drifted toward the younger, significantly less complicated energy of a rising star in the theater world. Joan Plowright, a woman 22 years her junior, offered the quiet tranquility and steady devotion that the aging legend so desperately craved. The ultimate and devastating blow landed heavily in 1960, when he formally asked for a permanent separation, bringing their epic, turbulent love story to a truly heartbreaking conclusion. The iconic woman who had once ruthlessly conquered his heart and actively dismantled his first peaceful marriage now found herself abruptly discarded, quickly replaced by a fresh-faced and eager rival. She spent her final years desperately grappling with the immense, suffocating sorrow of permanently losing the only man she ever truly loved. The painful irony of her heartbreaking situation was completely impossible to ignore, serving as a harsh reminder that a foundation built on the tears of others often collapses. Elizabeth Taylor.
A gaze the color of violets could melt the most resolute of hearts, and she used this remarkable power with devastating precision. She was the undisputed queen of cinema, completely accustomed to securing absolutely everything she deeply desired. When she met the fiercely talented Welsh actor on the extravagant set of a grand historical epic in Rome in 1962, the immediate spark between them ignited an unstoppable inferno. The inconvenient reality that he was firmly married with a family did not deter her in the slightest. She boldly ignored the invisible boundaries of his existing vows, determined to claim him as her ultimate prize. The intensely public affair quickly became a monumental international scandal, relentlessly pursued by the global press and heavily condemned by polite society. Even the Vatican publicly denounced their actions, yet she brazenly paraded their forbidden romance across the globe.
She confidently flaunted their undeniable connection, ultimately forcing him to completely abandon his loyal wife.
Their highly anticipated wedding in 1964 marked the beginning of a wildly tempestuous saga, characterized by extravagant diamonds, explosive arguments, and profoundly consuming passion that captivated millions worldwide. For an entire decade, they thoroughly dominated the world's front pages, living a life of unimaginable luxury and equally unimaginable emotional chaos. They famously purchased multi-million-dollar gems and massive yachts, creating a blinding illusion of absolute perfection. However, the incredibly fiery dynamic that initially bound them so tightly eventually began to consume their weary souls from the inside out. The immense pressure of their colossal fame, intimately coupled with their notoriously destructive personal habits, slowly but surely eroded the very foundation of their once entirely unbreakable romantic bond.
The painful karmic retribution arrived with a surprisingly cruel twist of irony that the entire world watched with completely bated breath. The man she had so fiercely ripped away from his peaceful family life grew increasingly weary of her endlessly demanding nature and wildly unpredictable moods. Desperately seeking an escape from the constant, exhausting drama of their shared existence, his wandering eyes began searching for a much quieter harbor. He abruptly ended their stormy marriage in 1974, leaving her truly devastated and struggling to comprehend the sudden, terrifying emptiness in her grand life. Although they attempted a brief and famously ill-fated reconciliation in 1975, the absolute final blow came shortly after. He definitively moved on with a beautiful British model who was a full 27 years his junior and 17 years younger than the iconic actress. The glamorous star, who had confidently built her most famous relationship on the shattered remains of another woman's home, was now the one agonizingly left behind. Watching her greatest love build a fresh, quiet life with a youthful bride perfectly illustrated the deeply unforgiving and cyclical nature of the universe.
Susie Hunt. A chance encounter on the pristine slopes of a luxurious Swiss ski resort in 1976 completely altered several prominent lives. An elegant British fashion model unexpectedly crossed paths with a legendary Welsh actor whose voice had conquered global cinema. She was formerly married to a famously reckless British racing driver. However, the powerful allure of the celebrated thespian, a man 24 years her senior, proved entirely irresistible and completely shattered her existing vows. The dramatic complication was that the actor was entangled in a highly famous marriage with the undisputed Queen of Hollywood. Stealing a husband from the most glamorous woman in the entertainment industry was an audacious move. Undeterred by the massive international spotlight, the stunning model fearlessly pursued this forbidden connection. In an unprecedented twist, the wealthy actor reportedly paid a staggering $1 million to his new lover's husband to smoothly facilitate their respective divorces. Their wedding quickly followed in 1976, officially cementing her triumphant victory over her legendary rival. She stepped into the challenging role of managing a complex genius, confidently believing she possessed the cure for his well-documented personal demons. For a few peaceful years, the radiant new wife genuinely appeared to tame the restless spirit of the great actor. She introduced a much-needed sense of quiet stability, far removed from the explosive drama of his previous high-profile life. However, the slow return of his deeply ingrained destructive habits eventually shattered their carefully constructed domestic bliss. As the 1980s dawned, the heavy burden of constantly managing his severe personal struggles began to visibly drain her vibrant energy.
The massive age gap between them became increasingly apparent as his physical health rapidly declined. The quiet sanctuary she had desperately tried to maintain slowly transformed into an isolating and suffocating emotional prison. The unforgiving wheel of karmic justice eventually completed its turn, delivering a crushing blow to the confident woman. During the production of a grand television miniseries, the famously wandering eye of the weary actor gravitated toward a much less complicated source of comfort. He found himself drawn to a youthful production assistant working behind the scenes. This woman, 23 years his junior, offered a fresh perspective. Seeking a brand new beginning, he decisively ended their union in 1982. The British model, who had generated massive headlines by taking a famous husband away from the biggest star in the world, now found herself abruptly and unceremoniously replaced. She was forced to quietly step aside and painfully watch as her former husband quickly married his devoted assistant the very next year. The glaring irony of her painful situation served as a powerful reminder that the emotional pain inflicted upon others often, eventually, returns to its original source.
Jane Birkin. Stepping onto the vibrant London stage in the mid-1960s, a fresh-faced, aspiring actress carrying an air of innocent rebellion captured the immediate attention of a profoundly influential musical genius. The celebrated British composer was firmly established in his career and officially married when this captivating muse entered his creative orbit. Blinded by her youthful exuberance and undeniable charm, he recklessly discarded his existing marital commitments to enthusiastically pursue her. The swift dissolution of his previous family life barely caused a ripple in the fast-paced, swinging cultural revolution of the era. They rushed to the altar in 1965, completely intoxicated by the blinding glamour of their newfound connection. She was barely out of her teenage years, stepping into a vastly complex adult world alongside a man who demanded absolute adoration and constant creative inspiration to fuel his iconic cinematic soundtracks and acclaimed musical masterpieces. For a brief, dazzling period, their union appeared to be a perfect bohemian fairy tale, playing out against the chic backdrop of cosmopolitan London. She completely immersed herself in his artistic universe, adopting the role of the devoted and stylish wife while trying to build her own cinematic career. However, the glaring age difference and his notoriously restless nature slowly began to inject an undeniable poison into the delicate veins of their once fiercely passionate marriage. The celebrated maestro possessed a notoriously wandering eye and an insatiable appetite for fresh, uncomplicated distractions. As her own star slowly began to rise, requiring more of her independent focus and demanding extended periods away from their shared home, the once infatuated composer grew increasingly restless. The intoxicating magic that had initially drawn him away from his first wife evaporated entirely, replaced by a cold, devastating indifference toward the young aspiring actress. The ultimate karmic retribution struck with a swift and deeply agonizing precision just 3 short years after they had exchanged their sacred vows. In 1968, the composer abruptly packed his bags and abandoned their shared life, turning his fickle affections toward a captivating new romantic interest. He left the devastated young star completely alone in a vast city, forcing her to directly confront the profound emotional agony she had once inadvertently inflicted upon another. Gathering the shattered fragments of a completely broken heart, she was forced to start her journey over across the English Channel, forever marked by the painful realization of how quickly burning passion can turn to cold ashes. The glamorous British-style icon who had boldly taken a famous husband from his peaceful home had painfully learned that a man who leaves one woman for you will almost certainly leave you for another. The inescapable boomerang of fate had delivered its harsh lesson.
Mary Ure.
The allure of the avant-garde theatre scene in 1950s London was intoxicating, drawing brilliant minds into destructive webs of passion. A radiant Scottish actress, celebrated for her ethereal beauty, found herself completely mesmerized by the most volatile playwright of her generation. When they initially connected, he was already firmly anchored in a legal marriage. Yet, the magnetic pull between the fierce writer and his new leading lady was completely undeniable, quickly leading to a passionate and highly destructive clandestine romance. Driven by an intense desire, she actively encouraged the rapid dissolution of his first union. The playwright ruthlessly abandoned his loyal wife, and the controversial new couple swiftly married in 1957. They quickly became the ultimate bohemian power couple of the British theatrical world, fiercely collaborating on groundbreaking stage productions that thoroughly shocked polite society. However, the glittering facade of their artistic triumph brilliantly concealed the deeply toxic reality of their turbulent personal lives behind closed doors. The intensely volatile nature of the brilliant playwright eventually turned their shared home into a continuous psychological battlefield. His notorious cruelty, sharp tongue, and constantly demanding nature began to severely fracture the delicate mental state of the Scottish star. Desperately seeking a quiet refuge from the relentless emotional storms, she sought solace in increasingly dangerous coping mechanisms. The very foundation of their once fiercely passionate marriage began to aggressively crumble under the crushing weight of his monumental ego. The merciless boomerang of fate struck with devastating precision just a few years into their highly publicized marriage. The celebrated writer, increasingly exhausted by the very emotional fragility he had actively helped create, coldly turned his wandering gaze elsewhere. He became intensely infatuated with a prominent film critic, a sophisticated woman who offered a completely different kind of intellectual stimulation. Without a single ounce of genuine hesitation, he abruptly abandoned his emotionally shattered wife to pursue this brand new romantic adventure. The brilliant actress, who had once confidently stolen the celebrated writer from his peaceful home, now found herself brutally discarded and profoundly isolated. Her desperate attempts to rebuild her shattered theatrical career were heavily clouded by an overwhelming sorrow that she simply could not escape. Her glamorous life ultimately concluded in a deeply tragic and untimely manner in 1975, when she succumbed to her profound internal struggles. The painful echo of her karmic debt resonated loudly, proving that a relationship built on the tears of another rarely survives. Jill Bennett. Behind the velvet curtains of London's theatrical scene in the late 1960s, the boundary between professional collaboration and personal betrayal frequently blurred into tragedy. A fiercely unconventional British actress, known for her striking features and sharp wit, willingly entangled herself in a highly destructive romance. She set her sights on the notoriously volatile genius of British playwriting, a man who was already legally bound to a respected film critic. The undeniable chemistry between the ambitious actress and the brilliant writer quickly ignited an intensely public scandal that shattered his existing family structure. Completely ignoring the immense pain inflicted upon his previous partner, the determined actress proudly married the celebrated playwright in 1968. She confidently believed that her formidable intellect and matching fiery temperament could successfully tame his legendary anger and notoriously wandering eye. For several years, they reigned as a highly formidable, albeit incredibly combative, powerhouse within the tight-knit artistic circles of the British capital. However, their shared life quickly devolved into a bitter psychological war, characterized by explosive public arguments and profound emotional cruelty. The sprawling country estate they purchased to serve as a peaceful sanctuary merely became an isolated battlefield for their increasingly toxic marital dynamic. Her initial confidence was slowly replaced by a deep, suffocating anxiety as she realized the true extent of his relentlessly demanding nature. The very same sharp tongue and emotional volatility that had once passionately fueled his acclaimed stage productions were now systematically turned against his weary wife. The foundation of their union, originally built upon the broken vows of his previous relationship, began to aggressively crack under the immense pressure.
The inescapable turning point of karmic justice arrived in 1977, delivering a brutal and profoundly humiliating blow to the proud actress.
The exhausted playwright, seeking a quiet escape from the relentless theatrical drama of their daily existence, directed his fickle affections toward a much younger arts journalist. This new woman offered him the absolute devotion and peaceful adoration that his highly combative current marriage completely lacked. He brutally severed ties with his fiercely loyal wife, leaving her deeply isolated and struggling to comprehend the sudden, devastating betrayal. The acclaimed star of the stage and screen, who had unapologetically stolen a famous husband to build her own glamorous life, was now forced to endure the agonizing sting of being mercilessly replaced. She spent her remaining years locked in a deeply bitter and highly publicized feud with her former spouse, unable to fully escape the dark shadow of their disastrous union.
Her earthly journey ultimately concluded in profound sadness in 1990, serving as a chilling testament to the universal truth that a romance sparked by deception often extinguishes in deeply painful abandonment.
Jean Shrimpton. The flashing bulbs of London studios in the early 1960s illuminated the rise of a cultural revolution, and at the absolute center of this vibrant new world stood an impossibly beautiful young model. With her striking doe eyes and utterly effortless grace, she single-handedly defined the aesthetic of an entire generation. However, her meteoric ascent to international superstardom was deeply entangled with a highly controversial romantic choice. She completely lost her heart to the most celebrated fashion photographer of the era, a famously charismatic visionary who was already legally bound to his first wife. The undeniable electric current running between the camera lens and the striking muse quickly ignited a profoundly intense, forbidden love affair. Completely ignoring the painful destruction of his existing domestic life, the young model boldly stepped into the glamorous spotlight alongside her brilliant mentor. The photographer swiftly initiated a formal divorce, ruthlessly casting aside his previous marital vows to openly flaunt his new, breathtaking companion. Together, they became the undisputed royalty of the swinging capital, capturing the wild imagination of the global press and defining an entire cultural epoch. For 4 remarkable years, their highly publicized relationship was heavily documented across the glossy pages of every major international fashion magazine. They traveled the globe continuously, creating iconic images in exotic locations, from the bustling streets of New York to the scorching deserts of the American West. Yet, beneath the perfectly curated surface of their brilliant artistic partnership, severe emotional cracks slowly began to appear. The restless creative energy that made the photographer so brilliant also made him fiercely unpredictable and fundamentally incapable of remaining completely devoted to a single woman. The ultimate turn of the karmic wheel arrived just as the legendary model believed their profound connection was completely unbreakable. During a highly publicized professional assignment, the famously fickle photographer crossed paths with a stunningly beautiful, incredibly enigmatic French actress. She possessed a cool, mysterious, continental allure that immediately captured his notoriously wandering gaze. Entirely intoxicated by this brand-new, slightly younger European starlet, he swiftly and mercilessly discarded the very woman who had helped build his massive international photographic empire. The shocking abruptness of his departure completely shattered the British supermodel, leaving her emotionally stranded in the glaring spotlight they had once confidently shared. In a remarkably swift move that deeply humiliated his former muse, the photographer officially married the captivating French actress in 1965, completely solidifying his harsh betrayal. The glamorous fashion icon, who had originally built her most significant romance on the heartbreaking ruins of another woman's marriage, was forced to painfully learn that those who steal hearts are often destined to have their own thoroughly broken in return. Joan Collins. The glittering expanse of the entertainment industry in the early 1960s offered endless temptations, and a fiercely ambitious British cinematic siren was entirely ready to claim her ultimate prize. Possessing an impossibly glamorous allure, she never allowed minor obstacles to stand in the way of her deepest desires. When she crossed paths with a wildly charismatic actor and celebrated singer, the powerful attraction was instantaneous. The deeply inconvenient fact that he was already firmly bound by legal marital vows to another woman meant absolutely nothing to her. The brilliantly gifted performer was quietly married to a devoted wife, but the magnetic pull of the sultry starlet proved utterly impossible for him to resist. Boldly ignoring the immense heartbreak inflicted upon his existing family, the ambitious actress actively encouraged the rapid destruction of his domestic life. They proudly paraded their fiercely passionate, forbidden romance across both sides of the Atlantic Ocean, entirely indifferent to the massive public scandal. Their highly anticipated wedding ceremony in 1963 officially solidified her absolute victory. For several fast-paced years, they confidently reigned as an incredibly dynamic power couple within the exclusive circles of international high society. They lived a life of absolute luxury, dividing their glamorous time between sprawling estates and exclusive resorts, seemingly completely immune to the heavy consequences of their initial deception. They collaborated creatively on various highly ambitious projects, thoroughly convinced that their profound connection was truly indestructible. However, the glittering facade masterfully concealed a deeply painful personal reality. The very same irresistible charm and restless energy that had initially drawn the celebrated singer away from his peaceful home soon became a highly devastating weapon against his confident new bride. His famously wandering eye simply refused to settle, constantly seeking out the fresh, completely uncomplicated adoration of extremely young, aspiring actresses. The glamorous star, who had always viewed herself as the absolute center of the universe, was now forced to endure the profound humiliation of his continuous, barely hidden betrayals with a seemingly endless parade of youthful companions. The inescapable boomerang of karmic justice ultimately completed its destructive path by the end of the decade. The immense psychological weight of his constant deceptions and relentless pursuit of younger women finally shattered the fragile foundation of their volatile union. She definitively ended their highly toxic marriage in 1970, thoroughly exhausted and completely heartbroken. The deeply confident icon, who had unapologetically taken another woman's husband, found herself painfully replaced by youthful, fleeting romances, learning that stolen loyalty rarely lasts. Charlotte Rampling. The mysterious allure of European cinema in the 1970s was perfectly embodied by a strikingly enigmatic British actress. Her penetrating gaze and unconventional beauty made her an international icon of sophisticated rebellion. During a glamorous Parisian dinner party in 1976, she was introduced to a pioneering French electronic composer. The immediate, electrifying connection between them was undeniable, completely overshadowing the highly inconvenient fact that the celebrated musician was already legally married to another woman and had a young family. Swept away by an overwhelming tide of mutual fascination, the brilliant composer swiftly dismantled his existing domestic life to passionately pursue this captivating new muse. The British star, fully embracing the intoxicating rush of their forbidden romance, willingly accepted her role in the rapid dissolution of his peaceful home. They officially tied the knot in 1978,
seamlessly merging their respective artistic worlds into a seemingly invincible cultural powerhouse. For over 2 decades, they proudly stood as the ultimate symbol of enduring, intellectual European glamour. They built a grand, sophisticated life together, raising a blended family within the secure walls of magnificent estates while sharing the immense pressures of international fame. She became his constant shadow and greatest emotional supporter, gently stepping back from her own demanding cinematic career to actively nurture his groundbreaking musical empire. However, the quiet comforts of their long-term union eventually failed to completely satisfy the inherently restless spirit of the celebrated maestro. The solid foundation they had originally built upon, the broken vows of his first marriage, began to secretly crack. The devastating strike of karmic justice arrived suddenly in the mid-1990s, completely shattering the comfortable illusion of their forever. The world-famous composer, experiencing a profound personal crisis and desperately seeking an escape from the steady march of time, began searching for fresh inspiration far outside the sacred boundaries of their marital vows. Whispered rumors of his deeply secret betrayals slowly reached the devoted actress, transforming her peaceful sanctuary into a suffocating landscape of paranoia and profound emotional sorrow. In a fiercely public and profoundly humiliating climax, their long marriage violently collapsed after more than 20 years of shared history. The celebrated musician definitively abandoned his deeply loyal wife, ultimately leaving her in the shadows as he boldly pursued fresh chapters, eventually turning his unpredictable affections toward a woman who was a staggering 33 years his junior. The mesmerizing cinematic icon, who had once confidently claimed another woman's husband as her own eternal prize, found herself forced to navigate the agonizing reality of being mercilessly discarded for the undeniable allure of youth. Sarah Brightman. The dazzling lights of London's West End in the early 1980s illuminated a remarkably fierce ambition masked behind the face of a classical dancer turned aspiring vocalist. When she successfully auditioned for a groundbreaking new stage production, she instantly captivated the absolute most powerful man in British musical theatre. The legendary composer, completely entranced by her unique vocal range and youthful vitality, found himself hopelessly drawn into her orbit. This powerful attraction, however, directly challenged the sacred vows he had shared with his devoted first wife for over a decade. Blinded by a potent mixture of intense creative inspiration and profound personal desire, the theatrical mastermind ruthlessly ended his established family life. The ambitious young singer eagerly stepped into the massive void left behind, actively encouraging the rapid destruction of his previously peaceful domestic existence. They legally solidified their passionate union in 1984, merging their lives into a highly formidable professional and personal partnership. She quickly transformed from a relatively unknown chorus member into an undisputed international superstar, carefully molded by his brilliant creative genius. For an entire decade, they thoroughly dominated the global entertainment landscape, living a life of unimaginable wealth and unprecedented theatrical triumph. He composed massive, world-famous musical spectacles specifically tailored to prominently showcase her remarkable soaring soprano voice. They appeared to the outside world as an entirely flawless artistic symbiosis, actively projecting an image of total invincibility. Yet, beneath the grand, carefully polished surface of their magnificent shared kingdom, the inherent pressures of their unique dynamic slowly began to poison the foundation of their high-profile marriage. The absolute pinnacle of their shared success ultimately marked the devastating beginning of their profound personal downfall. The incredibly demanding composer, famously requiring an impossible level of constant emotional devotion, grew increasingly distant as his former muse sought greater professional independence. The intense, fiery passion that had initially compelled him to aggressively shatter his first marriage simply evaporated
into cold, undeniable indifference. The universe prepared to deliver its harsh lesson regarding the ultimate cost of a foundation built on betrayal. In a brilliantly ironic twist of fate that stunned the theatrical community, their marriage abruptly imploded in 1990. The legendary musical genius, seeking a much quieter and completely uncomplicated harbor, decisively abandoned his famous superstar creation. He quickly moved on to marry a youthful, aristocratic equestrian, a woman entirely removed from the exhausting drama of the entertainment world. The globally celebrated diva, who had boldly taken a husband from his peaceful home to build her grand empire, was left to painfully realize that the very same restless nature that brought him to her had ultimately taken him away.